Okay, could you please state your name?
Absolutely. I'm Calvin Cox.
And where are you from?
I am from Burlington, Ontario.
And could you please tell us what you think about circumcision?
Circumcision, in my opinion, is a very unnecessary thing to do as a routine. It should only be done for something that is a medical reason when all other options are taken. I was circumcised as a child and it's botched, and I've had suicide attempts because of it. I died March 2015 in hospital because of the suicide and the trauma that went through it. I've been rejected by multiple urologists because they can't do anything about it. And it's something that could have been completely avoided. I could have had a whole different lifestyle, and I wouldn't have had borderline personality if I was just left alone. I could have chosen to do it as an adult.
Could you please explain a little bit more? You said you died? Like, how could you have died if you're here talking to me today?
So March 2015, after about 3 or 4 months of going through suicide because of urologists saying...
Suicide attempts, you mean?
Correct, suicide attempts. After March 2015, 3 or 4 suicide attempts, because urologists I would go visit said there's nothing they could do to help me with my circumcision. I had swallowed sodium hydroxide, which is a highly corrosive chemical, and it had eroded all my esophagus, and I was brought to the hospital, medically cleared that day, but came back 13 days later after, and I was bringing up blood all over the x-ray machine. I flatlined in the hospital, and they resuscitated me and put me into the ICU for 10 days. I had 4 blood transfusions, and I had less than, I think it was like 5% chance of survival. And this is all brought on because of the depression and body shaming I have to myself because of circumcision.
Could you tell us what exactly is wrong with your circumcision?
Absolutely. So the issues I have with my circumcision, the botched circumcision, right now isn't as much aesthetically problematic. I've been wearing various foreskin repair devices like the TLC tugger and the foreskin restorer, dual tension tugger, and it used to, when it was erect, it would tear on its own. I could have a nighttime erection and it would tear on its own and bleed, and I'd wake up thinking I had a wet dream, but it was actually covered in blood. But also it has very little to no sensitivity, and I can take over 2 hours plus to orgasm. It is very uncomfortable for me, very painful, even though it's a bit better now because of the TLC tugger. And it's just a whole thing. I can't even look in the mirror of myself naked without breaking down, because I had my rights and freedoms taken away from my parents, who should be somebody I trust, within the first 3 weeks of my life, and strapped to a plastic board and mutilated without any choice of that matter. Something that they wanted to do it to protect me from getting hurt, but ended up hurting me in ways that they could have never done any other way.
Have you spoken to your parents about your circumcision?
Absolutely. We are very open about it. They know about it, and they are actually part of the groups, the circumcision resource Facebook groups, and they even say now if we realized back then what circumcision was, we would never do it, and they have talked to people about not doing it because they feel that it was an extremely stupid idea for them to do.
What would you say to a family contemplating circumcision for their son?
Don't do it! No, just kidding. I would say if a family is contemplating circumcision, to let it be. The child, if they want to get it done as an adult, they can always get it done in the future. When you circumcise a child, they just cut it off without stitching it, and they're putting a vaseline substance on it. And at an infant age, you don't know what size down under you'll be. As an adult, when you're stitching it together after, you have a better chance of having a healthy, healed penis than a child. And if there's a point in time where you have phimosis or other problems, you can solve it down the road. You don't need to take off your foreskin like my parents did because they feared I would have a tight foreskin. It's something completely unnecessary to do unless there's medical reasons, but there's so many other options before you do that, like steroid creams and other devices.
Thank you. Is there anything you would like to add about your makeup?
Absolutely. So right now I own a haunted attraction called Bizarro's Factory Fear, and